I see people joining after I just told Marty and Peter I wouldn't say anything else. Typical Christina, right, guys?
Yeah.
I just noticed all attendees pop up and a bunch of people I know. So I wanted to just say hi. Like, hi, Sean Connor. I haven't talked to you for a long time. Hope you're doing awesome. Skylar, nice to see you. I'm glad we got this link to you. Molly, I see you too. I feel like I'll talk to you tomorrow. Soccer Association meeting and lots more joining. Okay, we all know that I love to jump in on things, but now I'm literally going to leave it to the
nice.
hands of the gentleman here.
Nice to see you, Bonnie, Kirsten, Rachel. Hello, glad you were able to make it. So as per usual, the little attendee list sort of grows for the first, say, 15, 20 minutes or so of the presentation. Hopefully mostly in the first kind of 2 to 5 minutes. But yeah, people typically kind of join when they join, and it looks like people are joining at a relatively good pace here. So maybe without further ado, while people are doing their thing and joining, why don't we first of all do the important thing of press record. So I will go ahead and do that. So we are now recording. So why don't we get started, and as people kind of start to join us, we'll just welcome as they come. So thanks to everybody for joining us today. For those who don't know me, my name is Peter Polarski. I'm CIPR Communications Vice President. Really honored today to be bringing all the way from Florida, our good friend Marty Greif. So a little background on CIPR and how we're connected to Marty. So we are a WSI certified agency. So WSI is the world's largest digital marketing network. And as part of that network, SiteTuners and Marty in particular are also part of that network. So when you work with CIPR Communications, often you're working with our team here in Calgary, but sometimes you're working with our team around the world. And one of those team members that we bring in often to help clients with improving conversion and making things awesome online is Marty. So Marty is the president of SiteTuners. SiteTuners is, in my opinion, the world leading conversion rate optimization company. They work with the biggest, most successful brands in the world, help them basically make their marketing dollars more efficient by improving their website and all of their digital assets to convert better. So that is my brief introduction of the man who is Marty. I will also say he's probably the kindest, sweetest, nicest human being I've ever come across. So Marty, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a true honor to have you. I'll let you do a little brief introduction and get started.
Well, first off, thank you, Peter, and thank you for that introduction. And I think I'm better off just not talking about myself at all after that introduction, because nothing I say is going to make it any better than what you just did. So, nice. Yeah, so we're just going to smile and go, thank you.
Perfect.
So yes, folks. So thank you for joining us today, and Peter, Christina, and Kayla and I, and the team. We've had a lot of success with a number of clients, giving them all sorts of different types of advice up in the Calgary area. Peter and I had recently a number of meetings, which were supposed to be in person. Okay, didn't quite work out that way. About 2 days before I was coming up, 3 days before I was coming up, everything shut down, and so we went from in person to virtual. However, you all are still on my list to come visit. I have a ticket that I bought that I have to use within a year, so this has to be over soon. Although, as Peter and I were talking a little bit earlier, I'm in Tampa, Florida, and we are now in one of the pandemic hotspots. Always a lot of fun. And the border to Canada is closed. You're not allowing Americans to come up there, which I think is probably a very good move. But that's a whole other discussion. All right, so without any further ado, let's talk about true connections, relationship marketing in the digital world. And I'm going to start off by asking a question. And let me say that this first question is a real question. You're going to look at this and go, what? So the first question is, are you selfish? And I want you to think about that for a second. And probably most people's reaction is, Well, no, I give to charity and I take care of my family and I'm concerned about the environment and the list goes on, right? But here's the reality of it. Everybody is selfish, you know. Even nice Canadians, nothing personal. Okay, we're all selfish because we're literally all animals, right? We used to be cave people, hunkered around the fire, gnawing on our piece of meat, right? And the reality is, it's all about survival. Now, you would think that as time has gone on and we have evolved, we're not like that, but I can prove that we're still driven by these instincts. And the third bullet point on here, we're bad listeners. How many times have you just been introduced? You've been at a party and you get introduced to somebody and they tell you their name, and then bullet number 4, we forget their names. I mean, come on. I do it. I can't tell you how many people I've met where I talk to them or they talk, or we're talking to people and someone says, I forgot his name. Can you tell me what his name is? Right? It's just who we are. Okay. And it's not that, we're bad people, it's just human nature. We are selfish. And you're like, well, what does that got to do with marketing? Well, let's go a step further. If you're familiar with Maslow and his hierarchy of needs, at the very lowest level of the pyramid, there's need for air, food, water, basically the physical, and then security. That's why there's tribes and safety, and we huddle together. All right, and then social. And as we go up in the hierarchy, we get to other needs. And you might say, well, when you're getting to those other needs, we go beyond being selfish. But the reality is, even when we're at the top half of the pyramid, okay, everything we do is still selfish, all right? When we donate to a charity, if you really break it down, I know this sounds terrible, folks, but if you really break it down, we donate to a charity because it does something for us. It makes us feel good, okay? It assuages some of our guilt, maybe. There's a reason why we do these things. We get some feedback that makes us feel good, even if it's at the self-actualization point or at the ego. The soldier risking his life, they have this calling to this. And again, I'm not taking anything away from the armed forces, but they're risking their life because they have this calling. They have joined because they have this need. There's some level of actualization. A teacher making sure their students do well. Are they doing? I mean, God bless these teachers too, right? I mean, if you think about what Peter's smiling, so I can tell, right? But if you think about what they go through, are they doing this just because they really care about their students? Well, yeah, they do, but they get this feeling of self-worth out of being good, about being successful. So we're all looking at some level for how do these actions make us feel? And here's the problem for marketing. Digital marketers are selfish. Everybody on this call, and again, I'm not pointing fingers. Well, maybe you. No, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. But we're all selfish, and it's hard for us to accept that we're selfish. And so let's take a step back. You're not bad people, right? You just forget about the visitor. We're so consumed with our ideas that we completely forget that there's people on the other end. You sent your strategy about, what you want to market, and you're forgetting about the visitor's needs. And, it's really funny, but it's so easy on the internet to be anonymous and forget that there's real people at the other end, right? So we really got to bring the people back into the process. So what are some signs of some obvious marketing selfishness? Okay. Gated content, very long, irrelevant form fills, too much content on a website. That's one of my favorites. All right. And usually these are in organizations where somebody says, well, we need to tell them about this and we need to tell them about that. And no, you don't. Okay. Why are they coming to the website and what do they want to find out? Okay. And so people focus on, their products and their services, and they get in the way with things that pop up and upsells and all sorts of craziness, right? This is standard marketing selfishness. And here's the key. It's not about you. It's all about the visitor. Ultimately, this makes it win for everybody. And I can't tell you how many clients I've said to them when they say, well, I really like this on a website, and I really like that on a website. And I've said, well, that's great, but I really don't care what you like. Okay. And, and I kind of say it like that because at the end of the day, Peter's job and my job is to be relentless advocates for your clients. Okay. So if we are solving the problems for your clients, they will do more on your website. They will buy, they will download, they will subscribe. So it's not about what you want. And again, we know what you want. You want more sales, subscriptions, leads, whatever the thing is. But we can't focus on that. It's not about you. It's about the visitor. By the way, I didn't say this as we're going on here, but if you have questions in here all through this, you feel free to add in questions. Peter and the team are monitoring the questions, and we'll have some time at the end. But if there's a question that's really relevant about something we're talking about right then and there, feel free to pop in. Peter will interrupt. Right, buddy?
Yeah, and just on that note, Marty, there's a chat feature and there's a Q&A feature. Either will work. So just don't be shy. Get your questions in there as we go, and then I'll interrupt Marty. No problem.
Yep. No worries. Perfect. Okay. So this next slide is the most important slide in the entire deck. Now, I'm not saying after this slide you can go. All right, that wasn't permission to leave. All right, but it is the most important slide in the deck. And it's like, well, what is this? Well, it's about true connections. It's about aligning that user intent with their experience and your company goals. When you align all three things, that's where the goodness is. That's where you connect with people. That's where they subscribe, fill out a form to become a lead, buy something on an e-commerce site, whatever it is you're trying to get them to do. If you satisfy their user intent and give them a good experience and it matches your goals, when all three are aligned, that's where the goodness is. Most important slide in the deck. And I will tell you that most companies focus on the bottom two circles, the experience and the goals, and they completely forget about the intent. And when you do that, you're losing people. So let's take it a step further. Let's talk about treating people the right way. And we'll talk about the three critical questions. Person on this, and you may find this. Do I want to do something? Do I just have you in your asking yourselves the three questions, do I want to talk to this person? Do I trust this person? And do I want to continue this discussion? So basically, what do I want to do here? Do I want to try to bail as quickly as possible, or do I want to engage with this person, right? That's what happens in person. We've all had these experiences. We may not have thought of them this way, but this is what happens. So if this is what happens in person, what makes anybody think this is not exactly what's happening when someone comes to a website? So let's talk about applying these three concepts, maybe not the exact same three questions, but the same kind of concepts. And how do you make a true connection with your visitor? What's the process? Well, here's the three questions modified for the web. Am I in the right place? How do I feel about this site? And what am I supposed to do here? And that's what happens in the first couple of nanoseconds when I land on any page. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take you through all three of the questions and how to make your website better so that you're answering them so that more people actually do what you want to do, so you can generate those true connections. So let's start with, am I in the right place? Well, it's all about matching the visitor intent and expectations, all right? And don't make your visitors think, all right? And so let me give you an example, and forgive me, this first example is, I believe this is a US example. Progressive, is that sold in Canada too, or it's just the US?
I think it's just the US.
Okay, so here's the thing. Progressive Insurance is a big brand here in the US. And Flo, the picture of the woman, she's their spokesperson. People know what they are. And if you look at the Google query up on the top, New York homeowners insurance, and then the ad said Progressive Home Insurance, quote, and it doesn't say anything about New York. And then I get to the next thing, and it says peace of mind comes standard. Put in your zip code, get a quote. And so the question is, am I in the right place? Now, one would argue or suggest, well, of course I'm in the right place. I'm looking for insurance, right? But here's the thing, brands get away with things that other people don't. And I can't tell you how many times this has happened to me where I searched for something, I saw an ad. I actually saw an ad. And then it says add in your zip code. And then it says, sorry, we don't service your area. Seriously? I mean, have you had that, Peter, where there's a postal code, you type it in, it's like, why did you spend money on an ad?
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, to me, this boggles the mind, right? So am I in the right place? Well, I don't know if they sell insurance in New York. You're making me think. As opposed to, this was a client of ours where it was the same query, New York homeowners insurance, and you'll notice what Google Repair comes back with. Compare top 10 insurance, best NY, New York, home quotes in minutes. Coastal Insurance Solution, New York Home Insurance, best New York. And then when I get serving New York, right? And then I get to the page, New York Homeowners Insurance. Is there any question about, am I in the right place? No, it matches my visitor intent. I don't have to think about it. And I will tell you, when we did this for them, this increased their conversion rate and their flow of leads by 86%, okay? It's all about matching that visitor intent. Am I in the right place? Don't make me think. Fair enough, folks? All right, how do I feel about this site? Well, if it's well designed, that builds some credibility. And if there's some social proof or trust symbols, that helps. So let me give you an example. And I didn't know this, but it turns out that you can buy barbecue grills online, and some of these grills are like thousands of dollars. I mean, thousands of dollars for a grill. I got one outside, maybe $300 from, Home Depot or Lowe's or something. So this boggles my mind, $2,000 for a grill. $2,000 for a grill, it better come into the kitchen by itself, get the hamburger, go back out and cook it, and then let me know when it's done. $2,000. But anyway, this is a site where, it's a modern design, but how do I feel about it? Is there any trust on here? Well, it's an okay design, but there's no social proof. There's no security. There's nothing that builds trust. Let me show you a client and a competitor of theirs, okay? Same exact grill, same exact price, but they've got a phone number in the top right-hand corner. Real companies have a phone number in the top right-hand corner, okay? They've got trust symbols with a Better Business Bureau, 100% protected, Inc. 5000. They've got reviews on here. So which site do you think you're more likely to put your credit card in to buy a grill for $2,000? I can tell you that these people do a very good job at it, okay? So it's all about making me feel safe when I'm on there. All right. So am I in the right place? How do I feel about it? Well, I feel pretty good about this, right? So let's go to the next step. What am I supposed to do here? All right. So again, this goes back to, don't make me think, but visual emphasis directs their attention. We're visual creatures. All right. And so we have to have navigation calls to action that are just very easy for me to follow. So here's an example of a before with the site we helped. And they sell, they're in Australia, and they sell kitchen appliances or pots and pans and stuff like that, right? They got a phone number at the top, but if you look here, it's like, what's hot? And they sell, and I'm not going to pronounce this right, Le Creuset maybe, I don't know. And they sell some Kasumi knives. So when I get here, I basically have to use their nav bar, or scroll down through a random collection of things. Well, this isn't matching my user intent. So here's what we changed this to, okay? We've got visual navigation, all right, that says bakeware, cookware, glassware, knives. We made it really simple, and it turns out there's a couple other lines underneath this. People can people can process between 3 to 5 things. So there's 4 here. And what people do is they go left to right, top to bottom, and they go, am I interested in bakeware? No. Cookware? No. Glassware? No. So on. And then if there's another row, which is fine because I'm comparing one row to the next, I'm looking and say, all right, is there anything in this row that I care about? So you could have a 5 by 5 matrix. I'm not suggesting it, but you could have a 5 by 5 matrix of all of this. But in fairness, we did a number of other things on here. They've got the largest range of kitchenware online, superior service, so they've got a unique selling proposition. They've got really good trusted by 500,000 clients. They've got their phone number. They've got sub-navigation. And so this, and there was limits what we were allowed to say, but this made them money. This did a 15% reduction in bounce rate off of the homepage, which obviously means people got further and they wound up buying more stuff, right? Fair enough? So let's recap this real quick, all right? And then we're going to go into some details of things that you can do today. So, am I in the right place? You know, don't make me think, all right? Match the visitor's expectations. How do I feel about it? Make me feel safe, make me feel like I'm in control, right? And what am I supposed to do here? Give me that information trailhead, that information set that makes it really easy for me to be able to go down the correct path to get to what I need to do, whether it's filling out a form to be a lead, whether it's subscribing to something, or whether it's buying something. It doesn't matter what kind of site you have. These concepts apply across all of them. So let's apply the 3 questions specifically to a couple websites. And I'm going to give you 4 things that you can do right now and you can test to see that these work. So we want to talk about removing rotating banners. We're going to display visual navigation. We're going to reduce the number of form fields, and we're going to place some trust headers. So let's talk about this. Let's start with, why do we get rid of rotating banners? You've all seen those rotating banners where things move, right? And I feel like I'm doing the hula dance, okay? But the reason that they've got, that those are bad is because we are literally animals. You heard me say that before. Well, movement is potentially a danger signal. So when we see movement, and in the old days when we're around the campfire, you know, in the cave and eating the meat, you know, we see movement, it's like, oh my God, the bear's coming to eat me, oh my God, right? And so every time something moves, and I'm going to exaggerate, we basically go, what's that? What's that? We're causing cognitive friction. You know, you're triggering a danger signal. So the only place to really put movement is on a banner ad on somebody else's site, not on yours. On your site, make it really easy for people to process the information without having to think, without having to worry. Make sense so far? And Peter, you've heard me say this multiple times, right?
Yeah, and I was going to jump in on that because I can tell you that when I have conversations with people, it's the #1 thing people like get squeamish about, and they all want movement on their website. So.
Yeah, it's a major note. Matter of fact, I'll go a step further. Rotating banners on your homepage lower your conversion rate by 10 to 15%. And we've tested it. I can't tell you how many times. We've won, I can't tell you how many new clients just because they went away and tested it and went, oh my God, you're right. You made us an extra X amount of money. And so, you know, what they basically say is, you know, if we're giving away this kind of information for free, imagine what happens if we pay them, right?
Yeah. So Marty, on that note, we got a question here. What about video in the banner?
So there's ways to do video, but don't, well, there's 2 types of video, okay? There's video that's bounded, and then there's the background interstitial video. So the video that's bounded, don't autoplay it. As a matter of fact, there's things to do. You need to tell them what's in the video, how long it is, and let them be in control. Make me in control. Don't just autoplay stuff. If you have the background things that are moving, that kind of background video, assuming that they were asking about that instead of the first case, that only works. And so there's exceptions to every rule. That works if your site is an experiential site. So if I am skiing at Whistler, for example, you know, I'm going to take a trip over to, you know, Vancouver and then go skiing, right? Or I'm sure you got some ski areas, you know, where you are too.
You're skiing, Marty, at Last Frontier Heli Skiing, because we got Steve on the call here. So
there you go. So, or if you're signing up with Steve for Last Frontier Heli Skiing, all right, you know. So the point being is, you know, there's places to have some movement, but you're trying to evoke a feeling, and you got to be careful because you can overdo it. And if you overdo it and distract away from the reason why they're there, You can go from evoking a feeling to basically annoying the heck out of somebody, right? And so there's a fine line, right? And that's the kind of thing that you have to test. But for 90% of the people out there, maybe even 95, do not put automated motion on your sites. It is only for experiential sites, okay? All right, so static versus rotating banners. So how do you measure success? Well, if you get rid of the rotating banner, you're going to remove distraction, all right? And so your bounce rate should go down. And if they're not frustrated, you should get more click-throughs because your bounce rate, went down. So they're spending more time. And your conversion rate goes up. And you'll notice I say on your macro versus micro conversions. So let's just talk about that for a second. A macro conversion is they signed up and became a lead to be a heli-skiing client, right? Or they bought, a handbag from an e-commerce site. Those are like macro conversions. A micro conversion is they moved from one page to another page or a couple pages down the funnel to getting closer to that end macro conversion, the big goal. So you can measure both macro and micro conversions through the process. All right, so let me show you an example. All right, this is a rotating banner. It's making me think. I don't know what's coming next. You're surprising me. This is a problem. And the example that I use for people and don't make me think is you don't know when your visitor comes to your website, if they're in a good mood or in a bad mood. And so I'm going to look like an idiot, but if I were to put my hands up here and this is my gas tank of patience in my brain, you don't know if I'm full or I had a fight with my spouse or the dog peed on the rug, right? Or, whatever. And every time you make me think, you're using up a little of my patience until I'm out of there and I bounce. So don't make me think. That's one of my key mantras. Don't make me think. And you don't know when they get there whether they're in a good place or a bad place. So instead, what you want to do is make it really easy. Match the visitor intent expectation. Here, it's skincare, makeup, or hair. Is there any question? No, it's real simple. It's click one, move on, right? Very straightforward. So next one, visual navigation versus all sorts of stuff on a homepage. We see this, and I kind of showed an example in the kitchen category. But why do you want to have visual navigation? It makes it really easy for people to find what they're looking for. And what do you measure? Again, we've seen this time and time again. Your bounce rate will go down, okay? Your time on page, okay, should be better because they're flowing from one page to another. Now, they may spend more time on other pages because they get somewhere else, but at least wherever they landed, you should be better off. And again, your conversion rate should be better, and you can test macro versus micro conversion rates. It's the same, concept here, right? So let's talk about this one. This is another real example of somebody who helped. This was the before image, and they've got hair, and we got a picture of Juliet here, and we got bestsellers and a skincare guide, and then it looks like there's a blog down below. And so is this an e-commerce site? Is this a blog site? Is this does she sell the products or does she have a salon? What's going on here, right? So Peter, if you were to look at this, just what do you think this is?
Maybe hair product.
Yeah. Okay, hair product. Okay, that's fair. Hair product. Let me show you what we turned it into. Natural products for black skin and hair. Okay, because it's an e-commerce site and you can shop products. And look at all the stuff that we did here. And I'm going to point out multiple things on here. But this topic is all, and so let me draw on the screen. This topic was about visual navigation. All right. Face care, hair care, body care, sample kit. Is there any confusion whatsoever about what it is I'm supposed to do here? So now, in fairness, there's a number of things going on here. There's a phone number in the top right. They've got a unique selling proposition. They've got, and let me erase some of this. So the next thing, they've got trust here with the as seen on. The phone number is trust. The Norton Secure is trust. All right, they've got secure site here, right? They then have more of their unique selling proposition. So it's well designed. I really don't have to think. If I'm looking for natural products for black skin and hair, I'm in the right place. So am I in the right place? Yeah. How do I feel about this? I feel pretty good. What am I supposed to do here? Well, you know what? I'm supposed to go down one of these paths. It's really, really straightforward. And I will tell you that between the old and the new, this increased the conversion rate by 277%, okay, which is obviously a significant number, okay? All right, let's talk about the next concept here. I'm clicking, nothing's happening. Good thing I'm not chewing gum and walking at the same time. You can't take me anywhere. Okay, so lowering the number of form fields. Why? Well, I mean, no one likes to fill in lots of forms. And the more fields you have, the more friction it creates, and the more likely they are that people are going to bounce, right? So how do you test it? Well, you can test the abandonment rate. You can see, are you lowering the friction or the cognitive load on your visitors, okay? Less, and I always say this, less is more. So less fields gives you a higher conversion rate. And again, your conversion rate should continue for, and in this case, it is the macro conversion rate. It is them filling out and hitting that submit button or whatever your call to action button is. And so that's how you measure success. Now I'm going to show you an example that's an old example, but I have almost never seen one that was this god awful. I just love this. And I know you can't see this, so I'll tell you what it says here. This first line here says first name, then spouse, then last name, then email, then home phone, then work phone, then cell phone, then best time to call, then select a state, and then how much debt do you have, and tell me about that, and best time to. This is, I think the term is, and forgive me, but this is batshit crazy. Okay, there's no reason for that, and they could have continued on. They could have gone, and where did you go for lunch? And did it upset your tummy? And would you recommend it to your friends? It's like, why are you asking all these freaking questions? Okay. This is the example I use. This is like somebody in a bar going up to somebody and saying, without much of an introduction, because I don't know anything about you yet. Hi, do you live around here? What do you do for a living? Do you make a lot of money? Okay. Do you go home with people you've met in a bar? I mean, it's creepy. That's just creepy. So's this form. Don't be creepy in person, and don't be creepy online. This is creepy, okay? I think don't be creepy should be a new mantra. I think that's fair. Just don't be creepy. So what did we turn that into, okay? Same exact, company, all right? We don't make them think. We ask for first name, last name, email, phone, state, and debt amount. We made this go down. This lowering the number of fields increased the conversion rate by 51%. Okay, so here's what happens, and Peter, you probably have seen this happen too, but we've had clients say, but the sales group wants to know all of these other things. Well, okay, but don't they get paid to, I don't know, I think the term is qualify people? Let them talk to them on the freaking phone and find out the answers. Get people to raise their hand, or get them excited, and then let the sales department do their job, okay? Yeah. So you don't need, because why are we making all of these fields? Anyone who fills out all these fields, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure they're probably going to buy. I'll grant you that. But the other 90% of the people that you've pissed off aren't going to fill out the form, and you've lost sales. So like I said, this increased it by 51%. So Peter, have you had that same kind of thing? I saw you shaking your head.
Yeah, it's funny because we have a question, but won't less information on a form mean that I don't get as good of a lead? But I think you just answered that question bang on.
Yeah, so here's the thing. If your problem is that you've got so many leads that you are completely and totally overwhelmed and cannot follow up with them, and you're dropping them, go ahead and put some more qualifying questions. But for the other 99% of people in the world, okay, no, you really want to get more people filling out. Now, there's things you can do called progressive disclosure. Once they fill out this form, you could send them an email that says, oh, by the way, in preparation for our discussion or whatever we're going to do next, you know, we have a couple more questions. Get them to fill out the form, okay? And then with progressive disclosure, you can ask them other questions later on. And I don't mean other questions like I press this and it goes to page 2 of the form, because now you're just annoying me, right? So if you're going to do progressive disclosure, what happens is you get the information from the form, you send them something of quality, you send them something they go, oh, that was valuable, I trust these people. And then you've earned the right to ask for a couple more questions. So along those lines, and based on that question, whoever answered that question is going to hate this next thing. They're going to hate this. So here is the before and after image, okay, to download a hearing guide, okay? So here's the question, and you can put this in the, in let's say the chat, all right? So to download a hearing guide, okay, they've asked for first name, last name, you know, street, city, state, all sorts of stuff here. To download, and you know, that's the call to action, instant download. What are the fields that we actually need to give someone the ability to download? So go ahead and put it in the chat. And then Peter, just tell me what people are saying they think the fields are that they absolutely need so that somebody could download, you know, a hearing guide.
Sure, yeah. If everybody can put in a couple of things in the chat, let us know what you think. It'd be fantastic.
So yeah, I hear things popping.
We got a shy group over here, Marty.
A shy group.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. Now I see them.
So we have name, email.
Okay. Name and email. That's what
location.
Location. Okay.
Name, email.
Okay. All right. All right. Peter, I know you know the answer, so I'm not going to ask you because that's not fair. Yeah.
Email.
Email. Email's good. And we get that a lot where people say email. All right. You all ready for the answer? The field that you need, or the number of fields you need, is none. You don't need any fields to download. Why do I need a field to download a buyer's guide? All right. The question was, what fields do I need to be a lead? The question is, what fields do I need to be a buyer's guide? Now, let me tell you what you can do that will increase, if you had a buyer's guide or some kind of call to action, what you could do that would increase your revenue dramatically. And I will tell you, this scares the heck out of most people. And I'm showing you the before and after, right? You'll notice that there's less fields here, and because these people were too afraid to let us do it too, but this got them a 17% increase. So here's the deal. If you have 0 fields in your downloadable guide, and you give them something that is amazingly high quality, you are invoking the principle of reciprocity. And what do I mean by that? You give something and you will get something in return. So if you send out this really high quality guide, and in that guide, maybe in the middle or at the end of it is a call to action, and maybe both, that takes them to another page to get more information, you have earned the right at that point to ask for the order. And what I mean by that is they will give you good information. So here's why we really preach this. I know for a fact that almost everybody, if not everybody listening to this, has an email address that they put in forms where they never look at them. It's your spam email address. You fill out a form and you use it to validate. And it says, we just sent you a thing to validate. So you log into Yahoo or wherever, you know, or some Gmail account that you never use. You verify your email address and you never go back there again, right? Until the next time you fill out a form. But here's what happens. If you give somebody high quality information, you have earned their trust and you have earned the right to ask for the order. So what happens when they get to the bottom or in the middle and they click on that call to action and it says, tell us a little bit more about yourself so that we can, you know, customize blah, blah, blah for you, whatever you're selling, right? Now, they trust you. You're going to get a real email address. You're going to get a real phone number. They're going to fill it in. And that's the concept, another version of the concept of progressive disclosure. And then you could drip market them to find more information. Maybe you only ask for their email in the first thing, and then you drip market. Maybe you ask for a few things. But you've earned the right by giving them high quality. And so just out of curiosity, and again, you don't have to answer, but I would love to know if there's anybody on this webinar who can honestly say that they do not have a dummy email address that they use. If you don't have a dummy email address, I want to know who you are. Okay, seriously. Anybody not have a dummy email address?
I got a dummy email address.
Yeah, well, I know you do. So, oh, we have somebody without a dummy email address.
Skylar says she doesn't have a dummy email address.
Okay, all right. And Bonnie raised her hand, so it looks like so. All right.
Sean has three. Sean has three dummy email addresses.
3 dummy email addresses. Okay, so it's rare that people don't have dummy email addresses, right? It is incredibly rare. So.
And Skylar says she unsubscribes once, and she subscribes then unsubscribes immediately.
And you hope that they actually will follow those rules.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. And Canadians are nicer than Americans. You really are more trusting and nicer. All right. I don't know any Americans who don't have one of those dummy email addresses. Heck, I gave my dummy email address to my wife. Well, no, that's nothing. No, I'm sorry. I couldn't resist. All right. All kidding aside. All right. Next thing, trust symbols in the header, right? So why is this important? Remember, we go back to, am I in the right place? And then how do I feel about this site? Well, we really want to make people feel comfortable. So what do you measure? You measure your bounce rate going down, you measure your time on site going up, you measure your conversion rates getting better. So trust symbols in the header. So here's an example of a trust symbol, right? And this, I love this. This is weight loss pills. And so what's the trust on here? Well, believe it or not, Visa and MasterCard, these are trust symbols here, but these are kind of, low. And I will tell you that flags can be trust symbols here, right? But when I get here and I ask the question, am I in the right place? Maybe. How do I feel about this? Not so good. And what am I supposed to do here? Well, I guess what they want me to do is watch a video, all right? Even their order now button kind of fades into the background. So let me tell you what we did instead. Okay, and I'm clicking. We turned that into this. Now, admittedly, it's a more modern design, right? But you'll notice these trust symbols up in the header. Well, first off, let's talk about phone number. Phone number is the largest trust symbol on the face of the planet. End of story. Real companies have a phone number. And it's okay to put Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And people always say, well, we don't really want calls. Well, I understand that. But while it will increase your calls, it absolutely more than compensates by increasing your conversion. Real companies have phone numbers in the top right-hand corner. And then you'll notice these others. 233,000 plus customers, quality guaranteed, formulated in the USA. You know what? They made these trust symbols up. It worked. Trust symbols work. Even ones that were made up work. Now, we've trusted things like Norton Secure down here, and other trust symbols. But having trust makes me feel good. And then look at this trust symbol, money back guarantee. So, am I in the right place? Well, lose weight faster than ever. How do I feel about this? I feel pretty good. And what am I supposed to do here? They made that kind of obvious. So they're answering the 3 questions, right? Am I in the right place? How do I feel about this? And what am I supposed to do here? So that's the whole point of this. Now, let me also say that everything that I've told you today also applies to mobile. Now, mobile, while it may not be the exact same look, you still have to answer the same 3 questions. Am I in the right place? How do I feel about this? And what am I supposed to do here? And so with that in mind, I'm happy to take any questions while I put up this last slide. And here's the question I would ask you all. Does your site answer the 3 questions appropriately? And I would strongly urge you to contact Peter, and the team, and schedule time with Peter to go through your site to talk about whether or not your site is a high converting site that answers the 3 questions, or if you're basically causing cognitive friction. Are you making people think? Are you not making them feel safe? all right? And Peter, within 30 minutes, can tell you how well you're doing there, all right? And not that this is a goal. If you come up with something that Peter's never seen before, Peter, you'll reach out to me and we'll get involved. But that's not a goal. I am 99% sure that Peter can do all of this without me. But I'm here if you need me. Right?
Thanks for that, Marty. And I will say, first of all, please, if you have any questions, put them into the chat or the Q&A, and we'll make sure that you get your questions answered. While we wait for that, though, Marty, I will say that it seems to me that almost all websites sort of break. The rules that are broken are very consistent. So I think to your point is after a little bit of experience of working with you on this, it's pretty easy to see what those big issues are.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm going to go a step further. Peter not only knows, what the issues are, Peter knows how to fix them. Okay, so it's one thing to identify the issues. All right, it's another thing to know what to do to fix them. All right, and so while I gave you some very specific and easy things to handle, what I call some low-hanging fruit that you can do. I mean, seriously, remove the banners, lower the number of questions you've got on your fields, add trust symbols, use visual navigation. All of that, works across every site. So,
So this one question is actually from Steve, who we mentioned in the call. So he says, your focus is mostly on e-commerce sites. Can you speak more specifically about trust for experiential businesses? So Steve is with Last Frontier Heli Skiing. I think you've actually had a look at his site before.
Yeah, absolutely. So really trust is all about a phone number. It is about a value or a proposition that makes sense. So, and I'll make some stuff up. I think we did this at one point for you, but it's basically, serving the, adventure heli skiing market in wherever, I forget where you did it, for over 20 years, or the premier heli skiing thing, over, 1,000 visitors, are heli skiing enthusiasts. So you're basically putting trust up there that makes people say like, oh, people have gone before me. Social proof is another thing. If you've got a lot of people with testimonials, having testimonials where, Joe says this was the best experience, and Sally says, I felt safe at all times. And I'm making stuff up because I don't know what your testimonials are, but testimonials is another form of trust. All right. And it's not just on experiential sites. It's also on lead gen sites. It's also on subscription sites. This works across the board. Now, the heli skiing site, I would call that a lead generation site. Okay, the goal there is to get them on the phone, all right, and whether they fill out a form or call. So you have to give them enough trust that they're willing to pick up that phone and call you, or they're willing to fill out that form so that you can contact them. It's all about making them feel safe and in charge.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask a sort of a further follow-up question to that, because I know this is a conversation Steve and I have often. A lot of people in the heli skiing space and many other spaces. We're the best this, we're the best that, best. Very self-promoting marketing language speak, and I know that Last Frontier really tries to not necessarily use that language, uses much more modest language, and lets sort of the experience of the site speak to sort of the experience you're going to get, and tries to make it consistent. So can you talk a little bit about that sort of marketing speak and we are the best, and nobody's better than us, and how do you deal with that?
So what I call that marketing happy talk, and it's a bad thing to do. It's okay to have a unique selling proposition that says, serving the heli skiing market for over 2 decades. That's a real thing, okay? Over 100,000 happy, satisfied heli-skiers, over 2 decades. And again, so those are statements of fact, all right, that add to your credibility. The words best and all that should be in your testimonials from your people, all right, that are coming here. Use them for all the superlatives, because the last thing you want to be is what we call, the opera website, all right? And the opera website is where you're basically up there, and forgive me because I can't sing it, so you're going, me, it's all about me. Don't do that, okay? make it all about the visitor and what's in it for them, okay? And let other people sing your praises, and that works. Does that make sense, Peter?
It does make sense. And I'm just going to add another sort of, I guess, element to that is because we are a PR agency also in addition to digital marketing. And so, we believe strongly in doing things like going out and applying for awards and getting third-party, recognition for the work you do. And so are those good trust symbols to be adding?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, absolutely. So third-party validation, that's what we call it. Third-party validation is key. And interestingly enough, if you could just belonging to something is third-party validation. So if Steve belonged to the Heli-Skiing Council of Canada, I'm making it up because I doubt there's a thing, but if there was a thing and they had a logo and putting that proud member of the Heli-Skiing Council of Canada, ooh, these are the guys, right? I'd feel good about them. Belonging to things is third-party validation too. Winning awards, third-party validation. Testimonials, third-party validation. Social proof, third-party validation. Okay, I think I beat that one into the ground.
Yeah, no, and it really is consistent with our agency in terms of PR because getting mentioned in a newspaper about your business is third-party validation, and it's pretty important and pretty significant level of trust that comes with sort of PR. Steve's saying it's called Helicat Canada, just so you know, Marty, for future reference.
All right, so for everyone, Helicat Canada. Okay. Yeah. All right.
So question just about sort of, and this is something we see all the time is, people really want these fancy websites, I call them design forward websites where it's like, you get onto this page and you can't even find the navigation and, whatever. Obviously that doesn't lead to conversion. And so, what's your response? How do you respond to the marketing manager who, is dealing with the CEO that wants this big flashy thing and sort of how do you sort of break down that conversation and say, look, this is why we need to do this? Is it sort of basically the gist of your presentation is what bring Marty in? What's the answer to that?
Well, I like that answer, but no, there's a difference between branding and conversion. Branding is about the emotional appeal, and having a site with emotional appeal is absolutely key to a lot of things. But you also want to design for your audience. And so, forgive me, but we designed a website, for example, where people were it was lead gen for a business that sold generators for businesses, like warehouses and manufacturing plants, and these things were like $300,000 to $1 million, right? So who's the target audience? Well, basically fat old men in a warehouse, right? So did I design like a fashion site that was beautiful, that had a beautiful picture of a generator? No, you design for the audience. But if I'm designing for a fashion, site where I'm doing diamonds or I'm doing, cosmetics, you have to make it prettier. And so you design for the audience. And that's the key to all of this. You don't design for the CEO of your company. You don't design for the HIPPO, which is the highest paid person's opinion. You design for your visitor, and I can't tell you, matter of fact, I will tell you, and I'll tell one quick story. I was at a client, they were a $20 billion a year business. I was talking to the EVP. He ran $16 billion of his business. And he said, well, Apple does it that way. And my response is, well, you're not Apple. Okay. Yeah, they're not a client anymore, so I might have phrased that better. But the point being, he was all about, I want to be like them. And it's like, no, be for the people that are coming to your site, right? And, sometimes people just, it's an ego, and you got to get them past that. The only people that matter are the people who give you money. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. That's why we're in business.
Yeah, and it's something, Marty, I've been sort of a little bit obsessing about, and I've talked to you a little bit about, is what I call my end-to-end customer journey, right? And if you think about the end-to-end customer journey, many of the aspects of your end-to-end customer journey are all about the client. It's like many businesses get the whole serving the client, onboarding the client, sort of giving the client the best experience possible when they're finally a lead and you're having that conversation. But somehow there seems to be a disconnect when it comes to marketing and the website. And you know what I mean? It's sort of like they got part of that equation figured out, but then the marketing website part seems to be disconnected from the rest of the journey.
Oh yeah, matter of fact, I've seen it where there's all sorts of weird. Every touch point that your clients have with their clients should be top notch.
Yeah.
So how many times have you ordered something online, you get it, and you open the box and it looked like somebody, you know, who did it and ran, right? It's like, what? There was no love in that box, okay? So we always say, give your visitors love. And that starts from the upstream messaging to when they land on your page, to if they call you or they do chat, to any of your transactional or promotional emails, to after they sign up what the onboarding is, whether it's a service or a box that gets delivered. If I get a box, what was it? What happens afterwards? All of this stuff matters. All of these things are conversion elements because it increases everything from your average order value to your lifetime value to your referrals. And if you're not giving people love and matching that user intent all the way through, you've basically got broken touch points. Sorry, I'm on my high horse now, so I'll get off.
It's all good. So we have one more question here from Justin, and I think this one is a good one because it's sort of consistent with probably, well, your business and mine for sure. But you know, what would you say your advice could be to apply to a business that works primarily online but sells high value consulting services? So not really e-commerce, but you know, does get leads through their website, but really it's a high value consulting service is what they're selling. Is there anything specific or different about that type of service?
Well, it's exactly the same. And I will tell you, for years, you know, for our website, we were like the shoemaker's children. We didn't do what we needed to do, right? And you know, about a year ago, we were. And so the good news is we were busy. Okay, the bad news is our website didn't reflect who we were, what we talked about. So we solved that problem. But it's all the same thing. Am I in the right place? You know, how do I feel about this? What am I supposed to do here? Because in your instance, or it's basically a lead gen website. You need those people to either call you or fill out a form. You need them to raise their hand, right? And so all the rules that I talked about absolutely apply. And I don't care whether you're high volume or low volume, high value or low value. It's the same. You have to apply these principles, and that will get you more and better qualified leads. And we know this for a fact. We do it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And I think just on that note, Marty, a couple things that are maybe a good idea is putting. Now I'm like losing my train of thought here. Putting heat mapping on your website to understand kind of like where people are falling off, where they're spending time. So if you're selling, you know, services, you're trying to understand kind of how people are reacting and interacting with your website. Heat mapping is a great way to do that. And I know that you've talked before to me about the fact that you've done extensive heat mapping on your own website.
Yeah, it's one of the first things we do with any client is put a heat map in to find out what people are doing. Okay, because analytics is good, but it's not enough.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask one final question before we sign off. We got 2 minutes, so it's sort of a final thought here, because this is something I sort of grapple with and think about all the time. But you know, there's SEO copy and SEO requirements and needs, which are very important for all businesses. And then there's conversion copy and conversion, you know, needs. So I guess, how do you manage sort of those two, really what I think are in some ways competing interests in terms of developing a website?
Well, first off, Google has changed over the years from, you know, the old days of everything from keyword stuffing to copy. You know, now Google rewards engagement. So make sure that you write for the visitor. Okay, Google tells you this in all their documents now, write for the visitor, all right? And yeah, you can have your conversion copy or your SEO copy, but put the SEO copy further down on the page. Okay, now I'm not saying don't tag things correctly and do all of the standard SEO things, but here's the reality of it. Google rewards engagement. The more that people go from page to page, the more they spend time on your site, Google will reward you, because they are saying, oh, people were searching for this. They spent a lot of time there. Even if, and people say, well, what if we don't have Google Analytics on our site? How would they know? Well, they know because if they searched on Google, okay, and they go there and then they bounce back really quick back to Google, they know that whatever was going on your site wasn't interesting to them, related to that keyword. Having said that, most people have analytics in there anyway, but you know, it's all about engagement. If you are answering those 3 questions, and you are engaging your visitor, Google will give you Google love.
Yeah. And I'm just going to add to that and say it's all about what you said, is that user intent, right? And Google really, what Google wants to do is basically satisfy the user intent, just like your website should satisfy the user intent. So if you have good SEO copy that answers the question, you're satisfying Google and you're satisfying your user ultimately on your website.
And so, well, Peter, thank you for inviting me today.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, no worries. Although you still, I got that ticket. Okay, so guys, feel free to reach out to Peter, and when this pandemic's over, I promise not to come up and infect anybody. Let's get together. All right.
Perfect. Sounds great. Thanks so much, Marty. Really appreciate it. Thanks everybody for joining us. I have a little thing here, which is actually a copy of Marty's book. Forgot to mention it. So I will reach out. I think I have pretty much everybody's email address, or just about it. And so if you want a copy of Marty's book, we're going to offer that for free to everybody that joined us today as a little gift and a little thank you for joining us. So take care, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon.
Bye.